Welcome back to another episode of Navigating Single Fatherhood. I'm your host, J. Lewis III, single father consultant. I'm talking to single fathers today about the baby mama drama that's affecting the children. I originally was going to do an episode with a lady by the name of Felicia. Felicia is a former PCP addict who reached out to me to want to be on my podcast to talk about how not having her father in her life contributed to her circumstances. Talk about how your lack of relationship with your father.
The way it affected me, I began to date older guys. Guys my age, they was kids. But not realizing it was just something in that older guy that I desired because I didn't have my father. When you got with them older guys and you were young back in the game, they was hustling. See, I dropped out of school in the 9th grade. My grandmother raised me. And this is what we got to look at. My grandmother raised me. She gave me all of my needs, but my wants, I had to get them for myself, especially after I dropped out of school and wasn't working. So what I did was drop out of school to not only get my wants, but my needs too. So I started hustling. I started selling drugs. I started hanging with dope dealers. You know what I'm saying? They started taking care of me. What does a daddy do? He take care of you. Women think that they're getting it for free, but no, you paying something. Your peace, your sanity, your integrity, you still paying something to be taken care of, and a lot of times it's not even being taken care of.
I went online and started doing some social media stuff. And I started seeing all these different things related to how women were just upset. They were angry at their baby's fathers about them not being there, not being for their children. But then on the other side, there was a lot of guys that were upset equally because they were talking about how they wanted to be in their child's life. But things like the system, outside influences, all those things kept them from being successful single fathers. A lot of them talked about how they were paying crazy money and they still weren't seeing their children on a consistent basis. That is absolutely horrible because when you're kicking out a lot of money, and one guy was talking about he was paying as much as $2,600 a month, he wasn't getting the ability to see his children on a regular basis. That came from a court order. So I know that there are so many upsetting factors that may put a man in a challenging situation. My whole thing is, if you make the decision to be with a woman to a point where a seed is produced, that choice created your initial decision. That decision yielded some kind of action. That action became a seed. Consequently, you have to be a father, and you're going to have to figure out whether you're going to manage your child's relationship, or if you're going to navigate the situation with the child's mother. I'm going to be clear here. It's your responsibility. I know that sounds harsh, but it is your responsibility. You made the choice to lay down with that woman, and then you decided to have unprotected sex. On top of that, those choices led to a decision, and that decision was to impregnate this woman. Whether it was a conscious decision or not is irrelevant. That's what happened. Now, from there, you have another choice. Your choice is to find some way to become amicable so that you and your child's mother can have a coexistent relationship that is about the child, not about you and her, about the child. That's where some single fathers make the mistake of putting their child's relationship on their bad blood with the child's mother. Your child did not ask to come here. What you need to be is happy at the fact that you have the privilege of being a father. Not a lot of men have this privilege. You can have two thought processes here. One, you can see having children as a burden, or you can see them as being such a benefit. If you take choice one, you're going to go down a rabbit hole that is going to be ugly. It's going to be a lot of core issues. It's going to be society looking at you, especially if you decide not to be in her life. You're going to be labeled as a deadbeat. You're going to be labeled because you're taking your hurt, your issue with the child's mother, and you're putting it on the child. If you choose not to see your kid, that's on you. There are a lot of other factors that come into play. Like I talked about with men, we are in an inferior situation when it comes to the system, when it comes to society at large. We're looked at as, again, being breadwinners. So if we're not going to be in our children's lives, that means that we're going to have to be financially responsible. The financial responsibility can be negotiated between you and your child's mother, or if you can't have that kind of civil conversation, mediators, lawyers may have to come into play. You do not want to let it go down the road of being in the courts. When it comes to the courts, it's not going to work to your favor. If you've got an incredible Johnny Cochran type of lawyer that's going to help you get through this situation, hey, cool. But realize something. You're still paying crazy money to an attorney. So either way, you're coming out of your pocket for a lot of dough. It's better to find a way to make sure that that money can go to your children. Listen, there is going to be a factor where that woman feels like some of that money belongs to her. You can make the choice. You can fight that if you choose. But in a lot of situations, that's fighting an unwinnable war. Or you can make the choice to raise your emotional intelligence and say, listen, our situation, it didn't work out. But what we need to do is figure out what's the best course of action for our child. Getting back to the conversation that I was having with Felicia, what she talked about was there was a generational situation that came into play.
When I went to jail a day before my 21st birthday and lost my mind, that daddy you asking me about, I was in a jail cell. He was walking past me, going to the men's jail cell. Looked up 30 minutes later, his sister, my Aunt Donna, was getting in the same cell, okay? So this was a generational curse.
We don't have to be in their lives for them to mimic some of our habits, some of our ideals. See, nature creates some of those things. My thing is to let single fathers understand you must find a way to be in your child's life. And if that means you have to speak to your child's mother, you have to find a way in your conversation to let her know that our conversation is for the benefit of our child. What we need to do is find a way that we can co-parent, coexist for the betterment of our baby. There are some single fathers that make the very poor decision of not being there. And that was the reason why I was having that conversation with Felicia. Her father chose not to be there. Based off that decision, she started doing things like she dropped out of school in the 9th grade, started selling drugs, started hanging around dope dealers and older guys. Again, she was looking for a daddy. She was looking for someone to protect her. Single fathers, realize your children, whether it's a boy or a girl child, they are looking for your protection. They're looking for you to be able to help guide them through their essential years of life, helping to teach them how to do things like ride a bike, swing a baseball bat, or come to a school play. All these little things, they are memories in your child's situation that they're going to be able to utilize when they grow up. And you can have a situation where it's a monkey see, monkey do circumstance where they feel that my father wasn't there for me, so I'm not going to be there for my kids. And that affects you in multiple ways. If you produce a seed that has a seed, well, now you're a grandfather. If you didn't build your relationship with your child, it's going to be that much difficult to build one with your grandchild. So understand this generational circumstance. Like I talked about with Felicia, she said it was generations. She didn't have any children, but she talked about how she went to jail, her father went to jail, her mom went to jail. She actually even sat in a cell with her aunt. You see, generations of circumstances can affect the relationship between you and your child. You have to learn to separate the relationship that you had with your child's mother from the relationship that you have with your child. They're two different things. Now, they may cross over, but realize the relationship that you build with your child, it should be precious. Definitely don't be one of those single fathers that are choosing to run. They make it bad for all of us. The goal should be to find a compromising position so that both of you can effectively raise your child. And again, you don't have to be in a relationship with each other. If that ship has sailed, by all means, find your circumstance, let her find hers. But if you have a child from your relationship, it's all about the kid. It has nothing to do with the way you and her were. Whatever the situation was, you have to put that down because it's all about the relationship you have with your child. You got to be able to build that bond and you have to strengthen it. You can't strengthen it if you're going to be constantly fighting with your child's mother. You're going to have to figure out some way. You have to say, my relationship with my seed, with my child, with my baby, it's more important than the former relationship I had with their mother. Those things may not work out, but the love that you have for your child should be essential. It should always be there. You have a responsibility to circumstance. You made the decision. Obviously, you made the decision to have unprotected relations with her. Those choices culminated into a decision. Your actions that were derived from the decision have created a consequence. And that consequence is the fact that a child was created. Your consequences don't have to be bad or negative at all. You are a blessed, privileged individual because you are fathering a child. It's a privilege to have children. It's not a right. You definitely shouldn't see it as a burden. And if you see it as a burden, you're already thinking the wrong way. It's about how you are going to be able to be effective as a father and how you are going to strengthen your bond with that child. If you don't, your son or daughter can end up like Felicia. That's not to say if you're there, those things can't happen. What will happen though is it reduces that possibility dramatically. When you make the decision, you can be an effective role model. Children see. So if you model strong positive behaviors, they're going to do the same thing. Now they're going to go their own way. We all did. I mean, we didn't do everything the way our parents instruct us to do. We had minds of our own, but also we looked at the way they were and we decided that either we wanted to model the way they were or we wanted to totally go against it because we didn't necessarily like the way they parented. We didn't like the way that they were. For instance, you may have an alcoholic dad or a mom who was just a narcissist, and you didn't want to mimic that kind of behavior. You don't want your children to model that behavior. So you went left of center to prevent that from happening. Or you had some great parents that were just ultimate role models. and you looked at them and you said, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad." Whether they were together or not, it was irrelevant. You took their tutelage and you used it to help you navigate your way forward. If you end up in a situation where you become a single father, you have choices. There's a lot of guys out here on social media bashing their babies' mamas and stuff like that. That's not gonna get you closer to being able to have a relationship with your child. Don't get me wrong. I understand that frustration. But that's when I say you have to raise your emotional intelligence because it's no longer about the relationship that failed between you and your child's mother. It's about how you are going to form that incredible relationship between you and your child. The goal, it should always be to be the most effective father that you can. And it's going to take having some challenging situations, going through some difficulties. Don't be one of those single fathers that are choosing to run. Because when you make that choice to run, that consequence eventually morphs into regret and works against you. You can think on the surface all you want. In the back of your mind, you know you weren't there as a father. I know that sounds harsh, and I mean it to be, because the fathers that are choosing to stick it out and go through the challenges, they're no different than you, other than the fact they have chosen to take the slings and the arrows so they can be in their children's lives. Find a way to negotiate with your child's mother. Contact us, hey, let's meet in a neutral place and let's just have a conversation. Bring a pen and pad with you. Write down all the things that she wants and then tell her what you want. That is effective negotiation. Being an effective negotiator is your key to becoming an effective father. Everything that you're doing is for the betterment of your child. You can sit here and fight with your child's mother all day, but that is an unwinnable war. You don't want that. A negotiation is bilateral. Both parties negotiate to create an agreement for the betterment of your child. It can't be to hurt each other. Instead of fighting fire with fire, you might have to do like Bruce Lee said, be water. And when you decide that you're going to take that approach, let me tell you what happens consequently. When you decide that you're going to take the water approach, you actually throw off your child's mother. Because if she's expecting you to fight fire with the fire she's delivering, and you choose to use water instead, you've thrown her off her game. Let me give you an example of using water versus fire on fire. You're talking and she comes to you like, you're not seeing your kids enough. Then you say, you know what? We need to figure out a way that I can see my kids more. And then ask her opinion. What do you think we should do? Of course, she's going to hit you with all kinds of different things. She's going to say, you need to pay more money. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to take your kids X amount of days out of the week. Here's where you start that negotiation process. This is where I think we can be for right now. I can contribute this to do that. And I can see the children X amount of days out of the week. We can both be there for family situations. Say there's a school play and she wants mommy or he wants mommy and daddy there. At that point, you have to, again, raise your emotional intelligence to realize that you're going to see her and you guys are going to have civil conversation so that everything works for the benefit of your child. I'm Jay Lewis III, your single father consultant. Follow me on Instagram at JLewisIII Motivation. You can also find me on YouTube at JL3 Motivation 0108. Single fathers, You have a responsibility. Again, I'm J. Lewis III, single father consultant. I'm out of here. I'll talk to you next week.